The salvager's discovery. The debris field known as the Harrow Belt stretched across the outer reaches of the Tarsi system, a graveyard of ships and dreams that spanned millions of kilometers. Among the twisted metal and shattered hulls, Kieran Nash worked methodically, his modified salvage tug Dustrunner creeping through the wreckage with practiced precision. 42 years of salvaging had taught Kieran to recognize the valuable from the worthless, and today his instincts were screaming that something was different. His weathered hands moved across the tug's controls as he guided the mining lasers toward what remained of a consortium frigate, its spine broken in some long-forgotten battle. The scanner pinged softly, drawing his attention to a peculiar energy signature deep within the frigate's remains. Not radiation, not electromagnetic interference, but something that registered as completely unknown to his equipment. In 4 decades of work, Kieran had never seen anything like it. "All right, old girl," he muttered to his ship, securing his helmet and double-checking the seals on his vacuum suit. "Let's see what we've got." The airlock cycled with a familiar hiss, and Kieran pushed himself into the weightless environment outside. Using magnetic boots and tether lines, he made his way toward the source of the strange reading. The frigate's hull bore carbon scoring from plasma weapons, but the damage pattern was unlike anything produced by modern weaponry. As he floated through a breach in the ship's engineering section, Kieran's helmet lights caught something that made him stop dead in his tracks. Suspended in the center of the compartment was a perfect sphere, roughly the size of a human head, composed of what appeared to be liquid metal. It shimmered with an inner light that seemed to pulse in time with his heartbeat. His scanner remained stubbornly silent about the object's composition. No readings, no data, nothing. Every scientific instrument in his arsenal was drawing a blank. Against his better judgment, Kieran reached out toward the sphere. The moment his gloved fingertips made contact, the world exploded into light. Consciousness searching, compatible neural patterns detected. The words echoed not in his ears but directly in his mind. Kieran tried to pull away, but the sphere held him fast, not through physical force but through some connection that transcended normal physics. Designation: Starborn Memory Core. Age: 5,349 standard cycles. Function: preservation of legacy. Bearer candidates evaluated. One suitable candidate identified. Images flooded Kieran's mind. Vast cities of crystal and light, ships that sailed between stars on waves of folded space, beings of pure energy that had ascended beyond physical form. The civilization that had created this artifact made humanity's greatest achievements look like the crude tools of primitives. You are compatible. Will you accept the burden of knowledge? Will you become the guardian of what was lost? Kieran's thoughts raced. He was a simple salvager, a man who spent his days collecting the refuse of 1,000 petty wars. What right did he have to such power? But deep in his soul, something stirred. Perhaps this was why he had always been drawn to the forgotten places, searching for something he couldn't name. "I accept," he whispered, and the universe changed forever. The sphere dissolved into streams of liquid metal that flowed over his suit, seeping through microscopic gaps in the material. He should have been terrified as the alien substance merged with his body at a cellular level, but instead, he felt only a profound sense of rightness. Knowledge poured into his mind, the true history of the galaxy, the rise and fall of empires that made the current powers look like children playing at war. He saw how humanity had been seeded on Earth, one of dozens of experimental species designed to eventually inherit the mantle of the Starborn. The transformation took hours, though to Kieran it felt like both an instant and an eternity. When it was complete, he stood transformed. His body was still human in appearance, but beneath his skin flowed threads of the liquid metal, connecting him to the accumulated wisdom of an ancient civilization. He looked at his hands, now capable of interfacing directly with any technology. His mind had expanded, processing information at speeds that would have been incomprehensible hours ago. And most importantly, he felt a purpose burning within him to guide humanity toward its true destiny. The Dustrunner's systems, now primitive in his enhanced perception, responded to his mental commands. He plotted a course not back to the salvage station, but toward the coordinates that had appeared in his mind. The location of the first Starborn vault, hidden for millennia on the ice moon of Thuron. As his ship accelerated away from the debris field, Kieran sent out a broadband transmission, his voice resonating with newfound authority. "To all who can hear this message, the time of awakening has come. The Starborn legacy returns not through conquest but through enlightenment. I am Kieran Nash, the first guardian of the new age, and I invite you to join me in building a future worthy of our true heritage. The message would spread across the settled systems, reaching corporate boardrooms and rebel hideouts alike. Some would see him as a savior, others as a threat, but all would have to acknowledge that the galaxy had irrevocably changed. The sphere's final message echoed in his thoughts as he set course for Thuron. The choice was correct. The path ahead will be difficult, but you will not walk it alone. Other guardians await awakening. Find them, unite them. The time of the Starborn has come again. Kieran Nash, once a humble salvager, now carried the hopes of an ancient civilization and the future of humanity itself. The stars stretched out before him, no longer a field of debris to be harvested, but a canvas upon which to paint a new destiny. And on the edge of known space, other ancient artifacts began to stir, responding to the awakening of their sister sphere. The legacy of the Starborn would not be denied. The Guardian's choice. 3 months after the awakening, Kieran stood on the observation deck of the research station orbiting Thuron. The ice moon's surface glittered below, concealing secrets that had waited over 5 millennia for discovery. Dr. Evelyn Ramos, the foremost xenoarchaeologist in human space, manipulated holographic displays that showed the vault's energy signature pulsing like a heartbeat beneath kilometers of ice. The resonance patterns match exactly with your neural interface, Dr. Ramos explained, her eyes wide with excitement behind thick glasses. It's as if the vault recognizes you, Mr. Nash. Kieran nodded, feeling the truth of her words through the alien technology that now coursed through his veins. The Starborn artifacts were networked across the galaxy, dormant nodes in a vast system waiting for activation. His transformation had triggered a cascade reaction, awakening other sites one by one. We don't have much time, he said, his enhanced senses detecting approaching ships. The hegemony is almost here. As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the station. Multiple warships dropped out of hyperspace, their weapons systems already charging. At their head was the flagship Tyrant's Hand, commanded by General Vance Drake, the hegemony's most ruthless enforcer. Mr. Nash, Drake's voice boomed through the station's comm system. By order of the Terran hegemony, you are to surrender yourself and all alien technology immediately. Resistance will be met with lethal force. Kieran reached out with his mind, interfacing directly with the station's systems. Dr. Ramos, evacuate your team to the emergency pods. I'll handle this. But the research will continue after we survive this day, he interrupted gently. Go. As the scientists fled, Kieran strode to the station's central hub. The alien technology within him responded to his will, creating a protective field around the facility. The first barrage from the hegemony ships splashed harmlessly against the shield. General Drake, Kieran broadcast, this technology doesn't belong to any government or corporation. It's humanity's birthright. You're tampering with forces beyond your comprehension, Drake snarled. That power belongs in responsible hands. You mean your hands, Kieran laughed. The Starborn chose me not because I sought power, but because I understand responsibility. With a thought, he activated the station's newly installed defense grid, a fusion of human and Starborn technology. Precision beams lanced out, surgically disabling the warship's weapons without harming their crews. But Drake had come prepared. From the Tyrant's Hand launched a specialized missile designed to disrupt alien technology. As it approached, Kieran felt the Starborn systems within him react with alarm. In that moment, he understood. The missile wouldn't just disable technology, it would destroy the Starborn legacy forever. The choice before him crystallized: preserve this power for himself alone or risk everything to share it with humanity. Without hesitation, Kieran made his decision. He reached deep into the Starborn network, accessing its full potential for the first time. Energy surged through him as he redirected the missile's trajectory, sending it harmlessly into Thuron's atmosphere. Then he did something unprecedented. Instead of retaliating, he opened a channel directly into the minds of every person in the hegemony fleet, sharing with them glimpses of what he had seen. The true history of humanity, the potential that lay dormant within them all, and the future that could be theirs if they chose cooperation over conflict. The effect was immediate and profound. Across the fleet, weapons powered down. Officers and crew alike stood transfixed by the vision of what humanity could become. Even Drake, hardened by decades of warfare, found himself questioning everything he thought he knew. What are you?" Drake whispered across the comm. I am what we all can become, Kieran replied. The Starborn didn't create us to be their slaves or their heirs, they created us to surpass them. In the weeks that followed, word spread throughout human space. More Guardians emerged as other Starborn artifacts chose their bearers, not conquerors or politicians, but teachers, healers, artists, and philosophers. Each brought unique talents to the collective, forming a network of enhanced humans dedicated to uplifting their species. The hegemony, faced with this peaceful revolution, found itself at a crossroads. Hardliners like Drake advocated for war, while others saw the opportunity for genuine progress. The tipping point came when Kieran invited representatives from all factions to witness the opening of the Thuron Vault. Deep beneath the ice, they gathered in a chamber that defied conventional physics. As Kieran interfaced with the central console, the vault revealed its greatest secret, a complete record of Starborn knowledge freely given to those deemed ready to receive it. This is our inheritance, Kieran announced to the assembled delegates. Not weapons or power, but wisdom. The Starborn left us the tools to transcend our limitations, to heal our divisions, and to take our place among the stars as equals. One by one, the delegates approached the console, each experiencing a personal revelation. Even Drake, tears streaming down his weathered face, understood at last what true strength meant. Within a year, the Terran hegemony dissolved, replaced by the new Commonwealth, a voluntary association of worlds united not by force but by shared purpose. The Guardians served as guides and mediators, helping humanity navigate the challenges of rapid advancement while avoiding the pitfalls that had destroyed the Starborn. On the anniversary of his transformation, Kieran returned to the Harrow Belt. Floating among the debris where his journey began, he reflected on how far they had come. The galaxy was changing, not through conquest but through enlightenment. Ancient enemies were becoming allies, and the dream of a truly unified humanity was becoming reality. As he prepared to return to his duties, a message reached him through the Starborn network. Another species in a distant arm of the galaxy had achieved the necessary level of development. It was time for them, too, to receive the gift of the Starborn legacy. Kieran smiled, setting course for the coordinates provided. The work of a Guardian was never done, but that was precisely what made it worthwhile. The stars held infinite possibilities, and humanity was finally ready to explore them all. The salvager who had once picked through the remnants of war now helped build the foundations of peace. And somewhere in the vast cosmos, the ascended Starborn watched their experiment succeed beyond their wildest hopes. The age of isolation was over. The age of unity had begun. The Ascension Protocol. 5 years after the awakening, Earth had transformed into the cultural and technological heart of the new Commonwealth. Where sprawling cities once competed for dominance, integrated eco-arcologies now rose in harmony with nature. Kieran stood atop the Commonwealth spire, the crystalline structure that served as both the seat of government and a beacon of humanity's progress. Guardian Nash, a gentle voice interrupted his contemplation. He turned to see Ambassador Lyra Thorne, one of the new Guardians who had awakened 3 years prior. Her specialty was interspecies communication, and she brought troubling news. We've received a distress signal from the Zarathi delegation. The Zarathi were the first non-human species to make contact after humanity's transformation. Insectoid beings with a hive-based consciousness, they had been drawn by the Starborn energy signatures emanating from Commonwealth space. Kieran interfaced with the Spire systems, instantly accessing the message. The Zarathi homeworld was under attack by something they called the Void Singers, entities that existed in the spaces between dimensions, drawn to advanced civilizations like moths to flame. They're requesting our aid, Lyra continued. But there's something else. The attack patterns match historical records from the Starborn archives. These might be the same entities that led to the Starborn's ascension. Kieran felt a chill despite his enhanced physiology. The Starborn hadn't simply evolved beyond physical form by choice. They had been forced to transcend to escape an existential threat. And now that threat had found new prey. Convene the Guardian Council, he ordered, and contact Dr. Ramos. We need to understand exactly what we're facing. Within hours, 12 Guardians gathered in the council chamber, their combined mental energies creating a shared consciousness space where thoughts flowed freely. Dr. Evelyn Ramos, now director of the Commonwealth's Xenoarchaeological Division, presented her findings. The Void Singers aren't creatures in any conventional sense, she explained, manipulating holographic representations of interdimensional energy patterns. They're more like cosmic antibodies, attracted to civilizations that manipulate fundamental forces of the universe. The starborn technology we've activated has essentially painted a target on our back. Then we made a mistake, muttered Guardian Marcus Wells, formerly a military strategist. We've doomed not just ourselves but the Zarathi as well. No, Kieran interjected firmly. The Starborn left us their legacy for a reason. They believed we could succeed where they failed. And how exactly did they succeed? Marcus challenged. By abandoning physical existence altogether. The question hung in the air. It was the great debate among the Guardians, whether humanity should follow the Starborn's path to ascension or forge their own destiny. There's another option, offered Guardian Sophia Patel, whose ability to perceive quantum probabilities had saved countless lives. The Starborn archives mention something called the synthesis protocol, a theoretical merger of physical and ascended states. They never attempted it because they were already too far along their evolutionary path. Kieran felt the truth of her words resonate through the Starborn technology within him. Show us, he said. Sophia projected her quantum visions into the shared space. They saw possible futures branching out like an infinite tree, humanity ascending to escape the Void Singers but losing their essential nature, fighting a losing battle against interdimensional entities, or taking the unprecedented risk of the synthesis protocol. The success probability is only 34.7%, Sophia admitted. But it's the only path where we remain human while gaining the power to face this threat. The Council voted unanimously to attempt the synthesis protocol. Kieran took personal command of the relief fleet to the Zarathi homeworld, knowing they would need to buy time for the protocol's implementation. The journey through hyperspace gave him time to reflect on how far they'd come. The man who had once salvaged scrap now commanded vessels that defied the laws of physics. Yet he remained fundamentally the same person, someone who fixed problems rather than creating them. As they emerged in Zarathi space, the scale of the crisis became apparent. Reality itself seemed to warp and twist as the Void Singers manifested, their non-Euclidean forms causing headaches even through the view screens. The Zarathi hive ships fought valiantly, but their weapons passed harmlessly through the interdimensional entities. All ships engage Starborn shield matrices, Kieran commanded. Guardian teams prepare for direct neural interface with the enemy. What followed was a battle fought across multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Guardians, linked through their enhanced neural networks, projected their consciousness into the spaces between realities where the Void Singers dwelled. It was a realm of impossible geometries and thoughts given form. Kieran found himself face-to-face with what passed for a Void Singer's consciousness, a vast, cold intelligence that viewed physical reality as a disease to be cured. You resist the inevitable, it communicated through waves of existential dread. All that manipulates the fundamental forces must be cleansed. You're wrong, Kieran projected back, drawing strength from his connection to both humanity and the Starborn legacy. Evolution isn't about abandoning what we are, it's about becoming more than we were. The battle raged for days, pushing the Guardians to their limits. Several nearly lost themselves in the interdimensional void, saved only by their unbreakable connections to their physical forms and to each other. The Zarathi, witnessing this display of sacrificial courage, began to reconsider their initial assessment of humanity as merely another expansionist species. Back on Earth, Dr. Ramos and her team worked frantically to complete the synthesis protocol. It required the precise coordination of every piece of Starborn technology in human possession, creating a resonance pattern that would fundamentally alter the nature of human consciousness. As the fifth day of battle dawned, Kieran received the message he'd been waiting for. The protocol was ready. But there was a catch. It required a Guardian to serve as the focal point to bridge the gap between physical and ascended states. The process would almost certainly destroy whoever attempted it. Without hesitation, Kieran volunteered. He had been the first to accept the Starborn legacy. It was fitting that he should be the one to complete their work. Guardian Nash, please reconsider, Lyra pleaded over the quantum link. There must be another way. Sometimes the only way forward is through, he replied, echoing words he'd heard in that derelict ship 5 years ago. Besides, I've always been better at fixing things than leading them. The Commonwealth is in good hands with all of you. As his fleet held the line against the Void Singers, Kieran returned to Earth one last time. In the heart of the Commonwealth spire, surrounded by the most advanced technology in human space, he prepared for the final transformation. The process began at dawn. Across human space, every piece of starborn technology activated simultaneously, creating a harmony that resonated through the very fabric of reality. Kieran stood at the center of it all, his consciousness expanding beyond the confines of his enhanced body. He felt himself dissolving, becoming one with the quantum foam that underlaid all existence. For a moment, he understood the temptation of ascension, the pure freedom of existing as thought without form. But he held firm to his humanity, to the memories of who he had been and who he had chosen to become. The synthesis protocol reached its crescendo. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, in a flash of light that was seen across the galaxy, something unprecedented occurred. Kieran Nash ceased to exist as an individual entity. Instead, his consciousness merged with the collective human experience, becoming a bridge between the physical and transcendent realms. Every human, whether guardian or not, felt their minds expand. They remained themselves but gained access to higher dimensions of thought and existence. The effect on the Void Singers was immediate and dramatic. The entities, used to facing civilizations that either succumbed or fled into ascension, encountered something they couldn't comprehend: beings that existed simultaneously in physical and non-physical states. Unable to classify humanity as either material or transcendent, their attack protocols failed. One by one, the Void Singers withdrew, their purpose confounded by this new form of existence. The Zarathi, saved from annihilation, pledged themselves as allies to the new Commonwealth. In the aftermath, humanity entered a new golden age. The synthesis protocol had granted them the wisdom of ascended beings while retaining their essential humanity. They could now traverse the spaces between stars as easily as walking between rooms, yet still enjoyed the simple pleasures of physical existence. Dr. Ramos, studying the transformation, discovered something remarkable. The protocol hadn't just affected current humans, it had rewritten human DNA itself. Future generations would be born with the potential for synthesis, ensuring that humanity would never face the terrible choice that had confronted the Starborn. On the first anniversary of the synthesis, the Guardians gathered at the site where Kieran's journey had begun. The Harrow Belt had been transformed into a memorial garden in space, where crystalline structures grew from the old debris, pulsing with gentle light. "He gave us the stars," Lyra said softly, touching one of the crystal formations. "But more importantly, he showed us that we didn't have to lose ourselves to claim them." A whisper echoed through the quantum realm, not words, but a feeling of contentment and pride. Kieran Nash, the salvager who had become humanity's savior, lived on in the collective consciousness of his species, watching as they ventured forth to bring light to the darkest corners of the universe. The legacy of the Starborn had found its true inheritors, and the cosmos would never be the same.